have already done what we need to do every week. Let's get right into the conversations.
Yes.
I have with me Miss Dontaira Terrell. She is a Youngstown, Ohio native that went to FAMU. I met her, I want to say we connected via LinkedIn simply because she was a fantastic freelance journalist. I saw her name on a lot of verticals. One vertical particularly touched me was in Ebony magazine. Do you remember writing about your mom having an accident?
Yes, I do. That was that was like an article from the heart. I actually wrote that article while I was sitting at the hospital by my mom's bedside. And so many people, whether they had lost a loved one or not, or was dealing with some kind of like life transition with a loved one, that article like literally resonated with so many people. So
it definitely resonated with me. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to meet years and years and years ago, because I've seen your career progress. Tell me where it all started. How did you first kind of put yourself in the space to be a storyteller?
Oh, well, if that's the case, we're probably going to have to go back to childhood. I would say, like when I was growing up, I like loved reading books. I loved magazines. My room was filled with posters and just all these clippings. And I swear, if you quiz me on anybody, I will give you a personal fact, a fun fact, a history fact, because I just loved like reading and just involving myself in learning about people's lives, their history, how did they kind of get to where they are today, or kind of what shaped or molded them. And then I even, used to go to the library a lot as well.
Shout out to the library, girl. Shout out to the library.
I told a story yesterday. I did an interview yesterday, and I told them how when I was younger, and I wasn't supposed to have a boyfriend, but I remember we were dating, if you will, and I'm saying this very loosely because I was all of like 14, 15. And so, I used to go to the library a lot, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if you want to see me, you're going to have to be at the library. And he showed up at that library. Then we made it a fun thing with my friends, his friends, so it was like a whole big thing. And people were like, oh my gosh, I never even realized you had so much fun at the library. I was like, yeah, it's a lot of like great things and free resources there too.
Amen. Thank you for saying that.
I was just at the library yesterday, actually, and I was blown away. And I'm like, do people realize these resources are available for them? They have a 3D printing. They have a studio if you want to come record. They have a culinary kitchen that they built in, and it's free culinary classes.
Wait, in Youngstown, they teaching people how to cook at the library?
Yes. My point exactly. Yes.
Wow.
Very hands-on. One of their event spaces, they have exercise classes in there, because it says it's sort of your mind-body interconnectedness. So they want you to like be able to think clearly, and that kind of helps loosen up the nerves. And I was blown away. So back then,
amazing.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yes. So I'm like, oh, I need to get the word out there about all of these amazing resources that are right at your fingertips. And I'm about to start involving myself again in the library like I used to when I was a child.
Yeah, I mean, it allows me to transition into the conversation, because I want to shout out your mom and dad. Like, what did they or you feel like they instilled in you for you to be a consummate reader, right?
Look, well, one thing for sure is that if I didn't know a word, they used to be like, go look it up. And what I just found out recently was that
a t-shirt that say that.
Go look it up, because you have to get a physical dictionary out the hallway. We have like a hallway full of books. That was like our bookshelf, and you have to literally like look word by word. No, that's not it. D-E, how do you spell it? D-E, like, sound it out, figure it out. And then I would have to like use it in a sentence. And it was a learning experience for both of us, because a lot of times, sometimes they were like, you used to ask us,
they don't know.
They don't know either. So they're like, well, you know. And then I would come back and explain what it is. They're like, oh, okay, yeah. So we were both learning at the same time, but that was definitely like one of the things that they instilled in us. And also, like, what is that saying? Like, if you want to like hide some information, put it in a book as it pertains to like Black people. And my parents are like, you're not gonna be that one. You're gonna pick up, read the book. You're gonna be very well involved and just, have a wealth of knowledge. And I have 3 older sisters too, who I experienced, I would say, college life early. And I say that in a good way, because My sister, who's right above me, not technically, she's 8.5, 9 years older than me. So when she left, I pretty much became like the only child for a few years. And I used to go to Howard University every chance I got, every weekend, every homecoming. My parents used to sign me out early on Fridays, and I'm like, I'm going to Howard for the weekend. My sister's friends, when she was working, they would take me to their study groups, and they would be taking me to their extracurricular activities. So I was always like just on that educational.
You had sisters at HBCUs. That was your connection to the HBCU.
Yes, all three of my older sisters. Well, we're all proud HBCU graduates. Yes, so my oldest sister graduated from Fisk University, and then she went to law school at Texas Southern University. My second oldest sister attended Hampton University, and then my other sister did Howard University, and then I'm a FAMU graduate. And that was also, yes,
and that's a woman on the line. That's what all HBCUs. Yes,
that was part of my parents' story as well, because we all had to go out of state. We had to go away to college because they were like, it's a whole world, it's different cultures, it's different.
Well, I can make my daughter go out of state. They made you do that? They didn't say you have the choice?
Well, they did, but no, it wasn't. We always have a choice, but also, you're going out of state. You're going out of state to college, and it's an HBCU. And also, we weren't allowed to pick the same HBCU as each other because our parents said that we were 4 unique individuals and we needed to attend universities that matched our personality and matched our common goals. And I am like,
I love your mom and dad.
Yes, like family was home for me. And I feel like for my sister and her personality and where she's at, this was the perfect place for her. It wouldn't be, but I feel like it wouldn't be the right fit for me, but I still appreciate it.
I love that. I love that. So I mean, I have to stretch, right? So you were born and raised in this kind of like really supportive reading HBCU environment, and it gave you the foundation to really do whatever you want to do. Why journalism, and where has journalism taken you in your life?
I think why journalism, because I wouldn't even like stories matter. Our stories matter, and I feel like sometimes it's how can I explain it? It's the power of storytelling. It's the power of the written word. You can get so lost in just like reading a story and keeps you inspired. You want to learn more. You want to hear more. So I feel like that kind of propelled my career. And then also I would say like one of my first internships in undergrad was at Good Morning America. And yes, and so my call time, like I would wake up at 4 a.m. because Good Morning America comes on at 7. Green room is set up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. And it was such an exhilarating experience. I didn't even look at it as, oh, this is a job I gotta give at 4 a.m. I feel like that was kind of like a dream in the making. Having that access to Robin Roberts and Diane Sawyer, seeing how they do the research and sitting in the pitch meetings and the producer meetings and being like, wow, so if you frame the story this way, that's, it was just kind of like that creative and thinking process. And then also, even afterwards, seeing viewers come up to the host and being like, oh my goodness, you connected with me so much with this story and that story. That really touched me. And I'm like, wow. So it's like, it's kind of like you're connecting with so many different people from all walks of life, from various backgrounds. And you never know. You can also sometimes find a commonality that you never knew existed or had just because you're like, you didn't know that person's story or history or whatnot. And to your point, how you talked about the free resources at the library, being resourceful, you can be a resource to people. So people may not know what's going on in Youngstown, but we're pushing that news out there, and then they're like, wow. And then they can become engaged, they can become involved, or they can just be knowledgeable about what's happening in the city of Youngstown. So yes.
How did you end up coming back after going to internship at Good Morning America and all the places? And I just mentioned Ebony, and that's just one publication that you've been written for. How has it been coming back, number one? Why did you come back, number two? What is that experience like?
So why did I come back? Well,
I'm back in Detroit too, so I know.
Right. Well, I would say I'm bi-coastal. I'm 50-50 here, but I'm definitely here back a lot more often, involved in the community. But the reason why is because my sister and I purchased this lovely newspaper
Amazing.
called the Buckeye Review. I have to send you a copy also.
Oh, I'm gonna be writing for you. So.
Oh yes, okay, yes.
We gotta do some. Yeah, we gotta do some work together for sure.
Oh, absolutely, I would love that.
My dad is from Dayton. I told you, my dad is from Dayton, to Ohio. Yeah.
Yes, but also I just want. So we purchased this legacy publication that has been in existence for nearly 90 years, 87 years to be exact. April 1937. And my sister serves as the co-publisher and the chief operating officer. And then I serve as the editor-in-chief and co-publisher as well. So it's a joint venture that we have.
How did that opportunity present itself to you, and why did you say yes?
So the opportunity actually presented itself to us. So the previous owners, the McNairs, they had the publication for 30 years, a little over 30 plus years. They were ready to pass the torch. And for a while, they had been asking me to come on board to kind of help facilitate, to help, get some collaborations going. However, I just think it wasn't the right time. I did what I could. And then when they said, you know what, you and your sister are the perfect fit, the perfect duo. We have complete faith and trust in you. And we know you guys can take this to a new level. But they were just ready to tap out, but they just needed the right fit. And so they asked us, they approached us. We did some talking back and forth, and it happened so quickly, and it was kind of like a why not moment. Why not be a part of this historical publication? Why not take on this challenge? Because we are both very well established and just have the skill set in our career to do the work, So it was sort of like I was working, for various publications. Why not work for my own publication and build that up just like I've done for others? And it's also a full circle moment. My sister was an intern when they first purchased the publication 30 years ago, in their first few years of purchasing the publication. And then she carried that on with her when she was at Howard University. So she was bringing that HBCU culture to the paper when she was on the yard and, for homecoming and things like that. And she also commissioned me at 9 years old to write an article for the Buckeye Review. So that was my first byline. And I interviewed,
I see where you say you couldn't say no.
Right.
No, I see where you say you couldn't say no. Right.
A lot of full
but you know how hard it is to be able to sustain yourself as a freelance journalist. You understand where the industry is going. You understand how digital is where, most of our source of income comes from. And I can't remember, I don't know if you still do a lot of newspaper, freelancing, but where can you take a newspaper, a written newspaper? Where does your skill, where do you take it? What happens next? What's your vision?
So what happens next? The first thing that we jumped right on board with is we recently just relaunched and revamped the website. So www.buckeyreview.com.
Yes.
And also incorporating video content as well. So we literally just came back from Fort Worth, Texas, interviewing the grandmother of Juneteenth, Oboli. So yes, getting that in-person interview as well. And also, putting ourselves out there. We also just went to the White House for both their Juneteenth concert, met a lot of other editors, publications, media outlets, just to kind of streamline that process, get that collaboration going, and also just knowing that we're in the building.
Absolutely.
And then another thing in terms of vision is that cross-generational approach. I think one of the things is, what's missing specifically in our culture is just having those intergenerational conversations as opposed to looking at baby boomers.
Just the young folk, yeah.
Yeah, right. So even with the Oboli, it wasn't just about me interviewing. We wanted to hear from my 9-year-old niece's perspective. So she interviewed her as well. And she had to formulate her questions. And one of the questions she asked was for a kid growing up in today, for a kid growing up today, what advice do you have for them to kind of help be a positive force in their community or be a positive role model in their community? And I was like, oh, that was a good question. She had me looking at my questions let me rewrite something. And just to see the knowledge that, Miss Lee gave to her, And she gave like a nugget for each one of us. And my niece's friends were so excited for her. I was like, I want to watch the full interview. How can I read it? They want to be involved too. So I feel like that's
impact. That's the impact of a newspaper. Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, but we're also, we want to digitize the newspaper as well. And then also we are revamping the print publication. And we've incorporated a lot more content that is a bit for everyone. It's not just Youngstown. It's
because they have way more interest than just in Youngstown. For sure.
Yeah, exactly. So we are bringing a lot of just like unique and great content from all walks of life. And also I've learned, the power of community. And when I say community, a lot of people say, oh, the community newspaper. And I'm like, okay, but when you say community and you're speaking about like culture and Black culture, there's so many different cultures that make up what Black culture is. It's not just the one thing. So what I think is important may not be important to you or as important. We have the Creole culture in New Orleans. We have the Caribbean culture. We have, various things going on throughout the diaspora. So it's not just community, and that is still a part of our community. So we want to bridge that gap as well. When I say community, it's not necessarily in terms of proximity. It's in terms of that far, it's more wide reaching than just what's happening right here.
You've been able to take the skills that you learned from really just reading and writing to now publishing video, all of those things that you've learned along the way. When you are talking to an aspiring journalist to talk about your sustainability, talk about the things that they need to know now versus waiting to learn. I didn't learn video until I had been a journalist 10 years. I didn't learn editing. Those are things that you kind of learn as you need to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no one taught you to be a publisher, right? So
not at all. And let me tell you, because I'm learning on the job as we speak.
What skills should people be learning? And now, they know how to write, they know how to read. What else to get in the game?
I think honestly, people take for granted the power of networking. Just how you and I came about. What does networking mean? People think, oh, I met this person at one point. You have to keep that relationship going. And it's not about necessarily what somebody can do for you. Like, you be a resource for them as well, for others. And then I feel like that has really helped me in my career and even with the paper, because I've been able to reach out to different writers, and they've penned pieces for the paper because we need that quality content. We need to maintain that journalism integrity. I've been able to reach out to people in terms of, hey, are you able to set up a meeting with somebody for ad revenue, because we need ad dollars to kind of keep it, in flux. So I think the power of networking is number one, and just realizing you can't do it all on your own. And also there's always something to learn, like seriously. So yes. And then also just in terms of Robin Roberts, actually, when I told you about Good Morning America, I still keep in contact with her. And one of the things she told me, she said, if you want to be on air, you have to be able to know a little bit about everything that brings the elements of being on air together. So she was like, from writing the scripts, let's say you hire somebody and they're just not getting it. You have to be able to then, okay, I'm going to write my own script, but you know how to write. You have that resource. Even in terms of like editing and video, she kept saying, you need to learn how to edit. You need to learn how to shoot video. I didn't listen. And to your point, now we're talking, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm like learning how to edit when I'm talking to the videographers, and I'm trying to learn the language.
The lingo.
Yes, the lingo. Yeah. So to your point, like, you want to be a writer, you have to know a bit about everything. Like, don't take your focus away from writing, but also still be able to at least know the lingo, talk a little bit, or be familiar with the other aspects that go into journalism as well to bring a story to life.
You have a really great portfolio of writing. I'm sure it's not a problem for you to reach any editor at any publication and say, hey, I want to write a story. But when you were first, if you can remember when you were first creating your first article, your first pitches, what was the process for you introducing yourself? We know how to network now.
Yes.
How did you at first introduce yourself?
Well, I still get no's. I just want to say that. A lot of no's.
Of course. But at least they're responding to you. You know what I mean? A response is like, thank you for responding, right?
However, no. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Thank you, right?
Well, that first process, my initial process, I was actually still working at ESPN. I'm gonna tell you like my first like byline that kind of opened the door. And I was in the sales and marketing. So my journalism had to take a back seat for a few years because of the demands of corporate America, and I had to pay my bills. So I was doing sales and marketing at ESPN. That was my first job out of college. But I was still on my lunch break. And I remember I took my one coworker, she wanted to go to Barnes & Noble's with me. And I was just going through, I went and purchased various magazines that I wanted to write for. And she was like, why are you buying all these magazines and wasting your time? And I'm like, oh no, I was like, because I go through the masthead and I'm looking up the editors and I'm trying to see kind of, okay, so lifestyle, what does lifestyle mean? Like, what can I reach out to her and say, I want to write about her? Like, you know, so that was me doing my homework, just trying to become familiar. And also, reaching out just in terms of, so I know their niche, what they're covering. So if I reach out, I'm like, hey, I'm Dontaira Terrell, I'm an entertainment writer, but they're like, why are you reaching out to me?
Right.
I do politics. I don't care about entertainment. So also that helps kind of craft that initial email. And also I was kind of extending an olive branch. If you're looking for someone for a particular subject, hey, here I am.
I could do it.
Right, I could do it. Like, just pretty much give me a shot. So my first byline was with Hutson Post. I did like a whole introduction in terms of, I was leaning a lot on my educational skills because I graduated from FAMU with a degree in journalism, because I didn't have a lot of kind of clips yet. So I had to kind of, why you? And I'm like, no, but I have the skill set, although I haven't written before. And I came up with, and then I was doing a lot of research on how to craft a pitch, because sending just an intro email probably won't get it.
You were a straight reader. You were a straight reader, yeah.
Yeah.
Read, yes.
Sometimes a little too literal though, because I'm like, wait, but I thought you said, they were like, you know what I meant. I'm like, oh. But you know, so how to craft a pitch. So my first one was dealing with workplace bullying, because I was like, what can I talk about that I think people need to know, want to know, but it's not just about me. It actually can reach different audiences, because also when you're writing, I had to start thinking about, it's not about me, it's about the audience. So what would the audience want to read or hear? So that was one of the early things I learned. They're like, yeah, this is a great story, but it's all about you. Like,
right.
What makes you so important and special? And I'm like, how can this resonate with our readers, our viewership? So tie it into a bigger audience, which goes back to my mom's story. Yes, it was about me, but it was also about, you know, in terms of bedside manner, when we're speaking with doctors, it was about, you know, my father, and it resonated with other people and their father figures. Yeah. It was about, you know, having a learning experience for myself. Like, what does this mean? And other people was like, wow, that was a learning experience for me as well. Yes.
Didn't realize it till I
realized it. So yes. So even though I put myself in those shoes, I want, you know, you get a broader scope. So those were some of like the earlier things in terms
of
like,
skill, girl. That's a skill. Yeah. Because from the pandemic, I've been writing a lot of personal stories about myself too, which is very different from the type of writing that I did before. So being able to interject yourself to a larger audience when it's really just about you is definitely a skill. Well, how do you, is there a process by which you come up with concepts and pitches? Is there a process, or does it come to you when you're walking down the street? No. Does it?
Actually, so I have a Google sheet, and so now as these commemorative days and holidays are coming and weeks, I'm kind of keeping track, or if I see something that sparks my interest, I like put it in my spreadsheet so I can go back to it and then just kind of expand that idea. Like, for instance, I just read in Essence the other day, they have a death doula, and I'm like, what is a death doula? But let's expand on this a little bit. Even though Essence covered it, but from a different perspective, let's talk about this. So like, that's another thing. I'm like,
well, they help people who know they're dying.
Yes. So
that reminds me of that TV show. I can't remember. Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, oh, this is interesting, and this would be a really great story. So I'm like, you know, when I see something that interests me, I kind of take it to that spreadsheet or put it in my notes to revisit, go back, and kind of conceptualize something.
Have you always been this organized, or just someone that you were working under helped you to have that?
I think me being a managerial, editorial, like managerial positions, that's when I kind of, when I was a freelance writer, just starting off, no. I would come up with the idea, and if it kept getting shelved or canned,
Yes.
I started asking other people to please provide me with, like, I'm like, but this is such a great story. And so I started, as my friends started getting editorial positions, being an editor, I would ask them to, like, hey, can you look at this pitch and tell me what's missing? Like, because I think it's a good pitch. And then they would be like, oh, okay, well, I know you want to talk about fam, but do they have a birthday coming up? Is it their centennial? Like, get that connection going. What is the connection? Is it back to school? So you want to prepare? Is it, something about recent grads in there? What is it about the story? And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. So
you need to teach a pitching webinar, or put something in place in Youngtown where people can pitch you ideas. Maybe like a panel of media outlets locally. You would be perfect.
That's actually a good idea, but no, not locally. We expanded
well,
it.
Yeah, I mean, but you get my idea, because
that's a great idea though.
No,
and then
I'm just listening to you explain.
Too. I want you there.
Yeah, I'm listening to you explain it, and I haven't heard it explained that way. I think you provided so many great tips. Just
thank you.
Because that's one of the things that I'm doing here in Detroit, because like you have to really groom or train journalists. You have to, at least for freelance, obviously if you get a job, you work for whoever that publication is. But for freelancers, I feel like there are processes and skills and things like that really can be taught.
Yes. And even like another tip, just in terms of meeting deadlines, huge thing, because I've learned, like, when you meet editors' deadlines, they'll keep coming back for more.
Oh my God.
Easier. So just realize the importance of deadlines. And if you can't meet it, like, let them know sooner.
Constant communication, yes. And they're okay with that, especially after you have an assignment, yes.
So that's part of the freelance game too. Instead of overwhelming yourself, let's set realistic goals and communicate with the editor, because just like, as a freelancer, you're constantly on the go and trying to figure it out. So is the editor, and their inboxes are flooded. So just I feel like, that has like helped me a lot. And that's how I started continuing to get stories, because I was meeting deadlines and turning over great copy and things like that. So I think that's also goes into just maintaining journalism integrity. Let's just say, meeting the deadline, and don't just throw something together just to meet the deadline, because then they're not going to come back. So that goes into
if you're challenged with something, like I recently did something on Michigan Fashion Week, right? It's our local fashion week, and this is the second year that I've attended. And you know me, I've gone to Milan and London and South Africa and New York, and I just really feel like it was just a bad show, bad representation. And so I wanted to not write something negative. I wanted the young lady to give me, so I pushed for more. I asked for more interviews. I went back. I talked to some of the designers. I had to expand it because it just wasn't a good show. It wasn't a good experience for me, but I had to go out of my original angle, you know what I mean, to include other people. So
that's a very good story and a very good tip. Like, no, because also, if you realize the story isn't working, how can we make it better?
And I didn't want to badmouth those people that had done all that work. I just didn't.
Yes. Oh, that's a very well, shout out to you.
So I'm like, let me talk to a designer. Let me talk to one of the models.